So, sources tell CBS News that a decision on charges in the investigation into former President Trump's handling of classified documents could be coming in the next few weeks. Two sources say Trump's legal team could meet with the Justice Department this week regarding the documents probe. CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge is here with me in Studio 57 to talk a little bit more about this. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of voters and GOP candidates are waiting to see how the various investigations unfold, especially this one. So what are some of the charges that are being weighed?
Well, Anne-Marie, good to be here with you in the studio. So in the classified documents under the espionage statute 18 U.S.C. 753, that's gross negligence. You don't have to show intent. It simply means that you have the unauthorized retention of national defense information. And the new reporting we have about this Iran memo from the Pentagon would seem to qualify on its face. The second is the allegation that the former president resisted efforts by the government to retrieve the documents, and that significantly would require a showing of intent by the former president. It looks like it could be a very consequential week. We believe the grand jury may be meeting in Washington, and there could also be this meeting with President Trump's legal team to get sort of a status report on where things stand. That can often happen at the end as a prosecutor reaches a charging decision.
Let me ask you a question. You know, a lot of people heard the news last week that the former Vice President, Mike Pence, was not going to be charged. When you bring up a possible charge that doesn't require intent, I think some people are going to ask, well, what's the difference between what Donald Trump did and Mike Pence did?
Well, I think there are a number of key differences between the cases. With the former Vice President, Mike Pence, he went through his records, asked the FBI to come to his home to see if he had retained anything that was classified. That's a very different scenario than what we saw with the former president. But the key issue here, Anne-Marie, is this issue of obstruction. Was there an effort with intent that was willful by the former president to retain these documents, even though the National Archives was asking for their return?
All right, so that's not the only thing that's keeping Donald Trump's lawyers busy. Where do things stand with the Georgia investigation into, election tampering with the election results? A lot of people, I think, thought months ago, after the grand jury report was released, we thought months ago something was going to be happening, and then it doesn't seem like they moved forward.
Well, this could also be very consequential based on at least two letters from the district attorney in Georgia. We can anticipate a charging decision, so either to proceed or to close the case sometime later this summer. And it has to do with these fake electors and allegations that the former president was pressuring them, and that amounted to election interference in the 2020 election. That's a bit of a wild card still, but it's part of this, I would describe as an illegal pileup that the former president is facing.
That is, I think, a great way of describing it. And now something else. A source tells CBS News that a meeting will be held today to review a document about an alleged bribery scheme.
That's correct.
This is involving the then Vice President Biden.
Correct.
This sounds concerning.
So this document is called an FD 1023. It's an FBI interview summary with a confidential human source, so someone they have a relationship with, not a walk-in. And what we understand will happen today is that these senior GOP lawmakers, including the head of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, will meet with the FBI director in a secure facility and have the opportunity to review this document. What the Republicans want to know is whether the FBI ran down that tip. Did they find anything credible, or did they find it to be unreliable? And what's not clear is whether simply being able to review the document will be enough for the House GOP lawmakers, and whether they're going to then move forward on holding the FBI director in contempt of Congress for failing to physically provide the document that they want.
Wow, there's a lot going on, and that's why I'm really glad that you're here, Catherine. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.